of all the films that have characters with a student and master dynamic. The student always has huge hurdles to overcome, and the learning process is a truly heroic one. It really isn't fiction. And it might not have as much action or visual effects, but your efforts as a piano student are really just as heroic, with all the same emotions along the way. So awaken your inner hero with these powerful practice tips in order of importance. At number 10, have a long-term goal, but be in it for the journey too. From the beginning, or if you haven't yet, talk to your teacher about what you want from your piano journey. This might be to take an exam or to be able to play a specific piece of music. Give your teacher the opportunity to explain how long it will take you to learn those skills needed and how much time each week you will need to practice. It's always a good idea to set a date for this, but never do it without the guidance of your teacher. Always be open to changes in direction and buckle yourself in for the ride. If you're too rigid about learning that specific long-term goal, you won't have mastered the techniques and knowledge to give you the freedom of musical rites of passage to open up more musical doors. Students who are too focused on their goal end up frustrated and disillusioned and tend to give up even if they have reached their intended point. If you are in it more for the journey, you will always have interesting new horizons to explore. Practice tip number 9. Trust in your teacher's plans for you. Teachers love to teach thinking students who are self-motivated. However, they want you to be your best musical self too, and you know as well as they do that it's better to avoid shortcuts. Your teacher knows all kinds of ways to develop your playing that you're not aware of, and to explain them would take up too much lesson time. So trust your teacher. He or she would like you to get there quickly too, but shortcuts do no one any favours. It's incredibly frustrating for everyone when time is wasted undoing what you have self-learned to relearn them correctly. Practice tip number 8. Don't rush ahead of your teacher's advice. If you think you're doing yourself or your teacher a favour by independently rushing on to the next section or learning a different scale or whatever, you're likely to be wasting your time. Channel your supercharged motivation towards your weekly targets, and you will, without any doubt, notice that your progress will speed up straight away. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you think your teacher is holding you back, you need to take a good look at how connected your mind is to your practice, which possibly needs a little more focus on real improvement in your skills. Your teacher tells you what is expected, so it's far better to practice thoughtfully with that in mind, even if it means you get a little less done. It's quality, not quantity. Having said all that, it is really important to have fun at the piano, and there are 2 ways to do this. Firstly, why not ask your teacher for some resources, music and improvisation ideas that you will enjoy at the piano. It's wonderful to be at the piano just for fun without the focus on specific practice. Surely this is why we are on this journey. If you tend to do this, you're really in it for the long term. Secondly, and your teacher might help you do this too, have a good go at reframing the practice of your weekly targets so they can be fun. Yes, it's absolutely possible. And stay with me here because the next few tips are all about forming that positive mindset towards your practice. Practice tip number 7. Understand the first application of mind to your practice, focusing. This is to do with learning. Playing the piano requires a lot of brain power, and ability doesn't happen overnight. Your teacher is guiding you towards being able to coordinate your fingers, hands, wrists and arms to help you become the best player you can be. Every time your teacher asks you to practice something new, really, what he or she means is to learn what you have been taught. So you will need to apply your mind to what you are learning. Keep doing this until the skill has been mastered, but don't expect this to be achieved in 1 week. If you can play it well with a book on your head and have a conversation at the same time or think about what you'll be doing at the weekend, it means you have made solid progress. Practice tip number 6. Understand the second application of mind to your practice, noticing. This is to do with connecting. Playing with self-awareness brings enjoyment to the pianistic process. Make your practice sensory. Imagine you and the piano as one. The piano is your voice. As well as seeing the music, the shapes of your hands and hearing the sounds you're creating, feel the touch of the keys. Feel the stretches of your fingers from within. Feel the floor beneath your feet and be grounded. Imagine sending out roots. Check your breathing and direct it to your abdomen rather than your chest. Notice the other muscles around your body. What are they up to right now? How are you feeling? Latch on to the positive feelings. Look for satisfaction in an unlocked skill. It's okay to be self-congratulatory. This is why we do what we do. And it's especially pleasing when we have successfully met the challenges of the music. Or adapt your focus to turn it into a more satisfying experience. Be prepared to mix things up a little and look for the fun in whatever you're doing. The best thing of all is the lovely bloom you feel when you have heard yourself play beautifully. So start truly listening to yourself as you play. A little aside here, that bloom is a visual thing when we see professional pianists playing. We can see it in their faces and body movements. So quick summary. Merging together both applications of mind in tips 7 and 6 would jump it straight to number 1. They are that effective. But we still have 4 tips to go before we get to number 1. Practice tip number 5. Make your practices as easy or challenging as you're feeling at the time. This is to do with adapting. If you apply both of the mind tips above, you are being kind to yourself, but in a productive kind of way. In other words, you are able to find ways to adapt your practice session on a minute-by-minute basis while still making progress. You are noticing when it's time to change focus or try out a different practice technique. Your teacher knows that we do have busier schedules sometimes, which can make practicing more difficult, but there's always a few clusters of minutes here and there. Many of my students who are studying for school exams find that actually playing the piano can be as good as a rest. Yes, even practicing one small thing from their notebook is a break from study. Look out for tension or frustration if you're prone to these things, and be kind to yourself in a productive kind of way at times like these by lowering expectations of yourself, but never stop completely. Practice tip number 4. For each practice, set 2 targets, one easy and the second more challenging but still manageable. Setting targets keeps you focused and gives you ownership of your piano time, as well as giving a sense of purpose. Stay with me because the hottest tip of all will make this super easy to do. Over the course of the week, aim to have everything covered, but there's no point worrying about it if it's not possible every week. Practice tip number 3. Practice for quality, not quantity, using your mind to truly connect to what you need to do. We've talked about this before, but applying your mind to your practice helps you overcome trickier things. Always be prepared to slow your playing down to achieve a positive outcome in your targets. Test your capabilities by reciting a poem, some lyrics, and playing at the same time, or, this is my favourite, trying to keep a book balanced on your head as you play. Because if you can do these things, you are at the point where you are truly practicing and no longer learning. Practice tip number 2. Do your first practice of the week the day after your lesson, or sooner if you can, and run through everything whenever you can. Make time for this. Now, you might think that this should be the most important tip of all, but it isn't. I'm saving the best till last. Yes, this first practice of the week is the most important practice of the week, because what you learnt from your teacher is still fresh in your mind and needs anchoring there. And this fact really does lead us to the number 1 practice tip of all time. Prepare for a little psychology here. So here we are. Practice tip number 1. Know that practice also means relearning what was covered in your lesson, especially for that first practice. Yes, your lesson time is short and the time passes very quickly. It's probably true that your teacher has a lot of things to cover with you, and in the lesson will want to hear what you have done in your practice, as well as guide you to something new that will move you on in the small steps. Now, here's the important reality of the thing. Away from your teacher, the environment is different from your lesson, even if it's in the same place at the same piano. This means you need to take what you learned in your lesson and relearn it in this new situation. And referring to tip 4, this routine will help you find out which targets are more tricky than others and help you make sense of your next few practice sessions. So, quick recap. The learning from your lesson needs to be fresh in your mind, in your own environment. And automatically you will know what then will need more focus. It's about you on your piano journey and what you need to do now. So, are you ready to be a piano hero? Go through all of these tips again, make some notes, and don't think about putting them all in at the same time. Choose the one that's going to be easiest for you, we're all different, and go from there. Work a new one in every week, or maybe even every month if you prefer. But start employing these tips now and you are going to be flying. So good luck and enjoy the journey. There are more resource videos coming along, including with magnet boards, counters, with the note birds, games that we can play with our students. So do stay tuned. Okay, so me over and out. Bye-bye.